And now I'd like to introduce the first speaker of the conference, who is Dr. Toru Imai of NHK Public Broadcasting, Japan's broadcasting system. He works at the research organ called the Science and Technology Laboratories, which is the largest and most advanced, I hope, laboratory in the world solely that does research solely in broadcasting. And he has the coordination planning of the ultra-high definition system, and he has contributed a great deal to standardization process of the high definition broadcasting technologies. And he and his colleague kindly brought the two sets of what they call an 8K ultra high vision system. And that's one of them, but the real one, the more you get the more extensive sort of view and experience of an 8K system at the South Pacific one. And anyway, I hope you enjoy that. And his presentation is immediately followed by the panel discussion with Netflix representative, Mr. Dave Temkin, moderated by Joe Weinman. So I hope you enjoy that too. And please join me in welcoming Dr. Imai. Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you introducing me, Sakamaki-san. Ohayou gozaimasu. Aloha, everyone. It's a great opportunity to introduce NHK's 8K Super High Vision here. After briefly describing features and specifications of 8K Super High Vision, I'll give you a demonstration of some 8K contents from that 85-inch LCD. As you may know, an 8K image has 7,680 horizontal pixels for higher sensation of presence. But it's not the only feature of 8K. Actually, it has three features: more pixels, faster pixels, and better pixels. This slide compares the first feature of the number of pixels of 8K with the current 2K UHDTV and the latest trendy 4K. An 8K image has 4 times as many pixels in each direction as 2K UHDTV. It provides 16 times more pixels and resolution in total. Why we need such a great number of pixels? 2K UHDTV is designed to watch television at a distance of 3 times of the height of the display. It makes the field of view narrow 30 degrees. In the case of 4K, its more pixels allow the distance of sight to be closer 1.5 times the display height, making the field of view wider 60 degrees. But we found that wider field of view gives a much higher sensation of presence, up to 100 degrees, based on psychological analysis of human eye and vision. Then it was derived that approximately 8,000 horizontal pixels are required for the visual angle of 100 degrees without distinguishing the pixel structure. Therefore, we believe that an 8K is the ultimate image format for 2-dimensional television. Such difference of the resolution between 2K high vision and 8K super high vision makes sunflower image seen in this way. The 8K image makes it's much clearer. The second feature is faster pixels, increasing the frame rate up to 120 Hz. This slide compares the captured images with a quickly panning camera operating at 60 or 120 Hz. You can easily see the motion blur in the 60 Hz image is reduced in the 120 Hz image. The third feature is better pixels. In other words, the expansion of color gamut and the bit depth. This diagram plots the chromaticity coordinates of primary colors of super high vision and current HDTV, as well as pointers colors, which are a set of existing real surface colors. HDTV, based on the phosphor of CRT, doesn't cover all the existing colors. Advancement in display technologies allowed us to design the new wider colorimetry for super high vision by using the primaries on the spectral locus. This enables reproducing almost all surface colors. Besides, in order to avoid tone jump, a higher bit depth of 10 or 12 bits for each color or pixel is specified for 8K super high vision. Audio is also awesome. Super high vision adopts 22.2 multi-channels for 3D surround sound system with speakers at the top, middle, and bottom layers. This sound system provides a very strong sense of presence. Okay, it's time to demonstrate 8K. But unfortunately, due to equipment restriction, here the sound is two-channel stereo, sorry. The contents will be Carnival of Rio and FIFA World Cup in Brazil. And that monitor is 8K. But the best viewing position is very close to that monitor. So you can come closer to the monitor to get a better look and feel real potentiality of 8K. This room is too big for that monitor. Actually, if we bring that monitor in our living room, it's too big. But in this room, it looks very small. But anyway, please enjoy 8K.
Good morning, everyone. I've never seen so many people interested in a demo as just then, where the whole room got sucked into the 8K experience. So we have a great panel this morning representing different dimensions of today's television emerging experience. So obviously, Imai-san, thank you so much for coming and providing the whole set of demo equipment. And if there's one of the 85-inch 8K TVs missing, I have an alibi already, so I'm not involved. But we're also fortunate to have Dave Temkin, who's the director of network architecture for a company you may have heard of called Netflix, which last time I looked at the Sandvine data that came out a month or two ago is responsible for over a third now of the edge bandwidth during prime time hours. So basically, I could say that you're Mr. Internet for all intents and purposes, since you're the guy that does networks for Netflix, which is the biggest driver of demand. So we're going to have a couple of minutes for audience Q&A at the end, but maybe I'll start with you, Imai-san, to talk a little bit more about kind of what NHK is planning, especially moving forward to 2018, and kind of some of the major milestones and either issues or opportunities that you see. Okay.
Actually, in the beginning, we plan to start 8K broadcasting, full broadcasting in year 2025. But Olympic Games comes to Tokyo in 2020. So NHK and the Japanese government wants to push 8K broadcasting before year 2020. So next year, we will start test broadcasting. 2016, it's test broadcasting. And the year of 2018, we will start full broadcasting. And I hope manufacturers get ready to sell reasonable priced 8K receivers. And Japanese people can buy such 8K monitor or TV tuners before 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. That's our plan.
Okay. Now, Netflix obviously has made quite a name for itself in terms of radically overturning the conventional assumptions and wisdom around what entertainment and what the entertainment experience should be. I know you can't talk about future plans, but maybe you could talk a little bit about exactly what Netflix is already doing with 4K, because it may not be apparent to everyone.
Sure. So today, we are obviously pushing, we've been pushing the envelope for a decade at this point, but today we are actively delivering 4K content. Our original House of Cards was shot to be displayed in 4K. Those of you who have seen it will recognize the iconic opening sequence of it, and of note, will note that that had to be reshot for 4K while everything else was great. That one thing, because it's so dark, the scenery is very David Fincher-esque, and so it didn't look very good the first time they tried to upscale it. As well as other content that we're buying. Breaking Bad, for example, on the service is also in 4K, and it looks phenomenal. We actually used Breaking Bad to show off HD when we first started launching HD service when we got the first season, because it looked great there, and then in 4K it just blows everyone away. The biggest challenge we have is getting content in 4K. Not only basically stuff that was shot on film. If the film is in good condition, in theory you can master it into 4K and potentially even into 8K. However, we had this long period in the middle, in the late 80s into the 90s and the early 2000s, where things were shot digitally, and you're at the mercy of whatever bit rate it was shot at. And if you think about the uncompressed bit rate of 8K, which I believe is 144 gigabits a second, no one was shooting and storing that in 1996. So there's just content that's probably never going to be, existing content that's never going to be 4K or 8K. But obviously, we'll continue to look and evaluate when it becomes practical, excuse me, for us to be able to deliver 8K. We're going to continue to buy content in 4K. We've led the pack in development of HEVC, which is used for both. So we certainly think that we're well positioned to continue doing that.
So since you brought up bitrate, maybe we could talk about that for a second. So the usual planning numbers I've heard are 5 to 7 megabits per second for standard HDTV at 30 frames per second, 1080p. What does Netflix assume about the bandwidth required and any other interesting characteristics like, I don't know, jitter, but let's say primarily bandwidth for 4K transmission?
Sure. So 4K, we actually have two bit rates that we use for it. A lower quality 4K at 16 megabit and a higher quality at 20 megabit. And again, that comes from the work we've done on HEVC to optimize it. That's down significantly from obviously the gigabits per second that raw video would be, and even significantly down from what most post-processed video would be. We say 4K, and it freaks some people out. They think, oh, well, that's going to be 100 megabit or 200 megabit a stream, and when you're talking about uncompressed, like switched digital video, yeah, that might be the case. But in our case, it's 16 to 20, and we feel that that looks phenomenal.
Okay. And we were chatting a little bit yesterday, and you were saying that with the H.265 codec, that 8K can be around 100 megabits per second compressed. So it's kind of the resolution more or less follows the bit rate, with a fourfold increase in bit rate for the fourfold increase in resolution.
Yes, 8K needs, in original camera output is 72 gigabit per second for 60 hertz frame rate, and 144 gigabit per second for 120 hertz frame rate. And if we use compression technology of HEVC or H.265, that signal can be compressed to around 80 to 100 megabit per second. And if we use a satellite, we can transmit such signal to households. So next year, we plan to transmit 8K compressed 100 megabit per second signal to not household, but for some equipment. Yeah.
My household is the main household, so whatever else. Yeah. So that brings up another interesting dichotomy between the two of you, which is you're primarily doing broadcast satellite, and you're doing unicast streams, and you're going over the air, and you're going through the fiber. So I guess because there's a lot of service providers in here as well as network equipment vendors, kind of what's the Netflix experience been with, forget 4K, how about regular 1080p 2K? Where is that at, and kind of any either words of advice or kudos or issues or great success stories as far as working with service providers to get the customer experience to be optimal?
Absolutely. So I was specifically brought into Netflix to build their content delivery network. For many years, we had outsourced it to companies like Akamai and Limelight and Level 3. And about 4 years ago, the decision was made that we had the economy of scale. The vertical integration made a lot more sense for us to build our own CDN instead of leveraging third parties. And it took us a few years, but we're 100% on our own delivery platform. As most of you have probably seen, those in our industry at least have seen, we release a monthly ranking of the ISPs who deliver our traffic. And the numbers on there look small, right? You see 3.5 megabit, 4 megabit, 5 megabit, whatever. Those are based on not only our ability to deliver content to networks based on what that content is. So whether it's SD cartoons or UHD, 4K Breaking Bad or House of Cards or something like that, it all gets averaged together, and that average smooths out across everything. What the real variable is, though, is the ability to deliver traffic to the middle and last mile. So being able to get traffic from where we deliver it from, whether that be from a peering point, some sort of data center that we have our equipment co-located in, or an embedded cache inside of someone else's network or inside of that eyeball network, our ability to deliver to the middle and last mile is what really is measured there. And we had ISPs that since day one of our project, we've had a phenomenal time being able to deliver to. Cablevision, for example, in New York, led the pack at the top for the US. I'm a Cablevision customer where I live in Hoboken, New Jersey. Phenomenal service. Couldn't ask for more. They have our Open Connect appliances in their network. They love it because it allows them to easily manage their traffic. We love it because it gives our consumers, our mutual consumers, a very high quality experience. But we have other networks that rode the bottom of the pack for a long time because we were unable to get that content in there. And forget 4K, those networks were lucky to get even watchable quality SD. And so as we continue to grow and as bit rates come up, we certainly look at that and think to ourselves, okay, how can we get more efficient? And so I alluded to earlier networks freaking out that, oh my God, you're going to deliver 4K, this is going to crush us. We spend a lot of time and money and effort on improving the protocols for delivering to that last mile. Like I said, HEVCs, HD64, 265, basically getting to the point where we can get that bit rate down. And when we got to the point where we liked the encode that we had for 4K, we even extended that down and re-encoded the entire rest of our library in order to get a bit rate savings because we were able to get an equivalent quality at less bits on the wire. And so we'll continue to look at that, and we'll continue to work with ISPs to find the best ways for them to deliver traffic to their networks in the most cost-efficient way possible while maintaining a quality consumer experience.
So I'd like to come back to you a little bit on some of that, but I'd actually like to talk a little bit about ecosystem because obviously everything has to work together. You've got to have the video capture devices, right? Video cameras, and I guess the sound. I don't know how you get 22 microphones onto a movie set, but I guess there's a way to do that. So you've got to have that. You've got to have the storage. You've got to have the storage, either SAN or direct write to SSD, whatever bandwidth. Then you've got to have the, all the transcoding that Netflix does to reach multiple devices. You've got to have the broadcast radio technology. What's the strategy, not so much from a technology perspective, but from a massive cultural transformation perspective, where you've got to get the receivers in every household or business. You've got to do this whole thing end to end. Like what is NHK doing about that?
Okay, as a broadcaster, we are researching and developing cameras and storage using SSD, and we of course we need switches, OB bands, and of course transmitters and receivers. And we jointly research and develop with manufacturers, and we ask them to get together. And finally, the receivers is consumer electronics issue. So we hope manufacturers make such a 8K receivers in a reasonable price. So in Japan, we have a consortium to push 8K ecosystem, combining with, we are public broadcasters, and of course, public broadcasters join us, and Japanese government pushes that consortium, and manufacturers of production side and receiver side, all the companies in Japan get together to push 8K. The target is, of course, 2020 Olympic Games. So we are all Japan consortium to support all the system production side and receiver side.
Just so you know, I'm free those 2 weeks. If you need any help in the booth, I'll be available for that. So just though to think about discontinuities in the industry, if you go back historically, I'm sure we'll remember a day where networks basically weren't that good. And you could barely get your 300 baud modem to work, and all the great technology was in the the more robust and traditional color TV as it evolved in broadcast. And then kind of there was this transition point around the time of Blu-ray, where it was like maybe the end of the physical media era, right? Where error also may be the right word. But it seems as though, so Apple has a 5K display out now. Are we looking at a complete transformation of the standard world that we've been used to with broadcasters and content producers that are like the official Hollywood studio that are producing for Samsung 75-inch TVs or Panasonic's, to a new era where, I mean, the Nokia Lumia is like 45 megapixels, so presumably with faster processors as far as the CCD image capture, you don't need a fancy Astro 8K camera. It's just the camera's in your pocket, and 8K is just an app that you download for free, and then you can watch it on the cinema display or a, Oculus Rift device or whatever. So do you all see any potential roadblocks or disruptions where kind of while there's a linear evolution, there's this other stuff that's coming in from the side that could put a monkey wrench in things? Either?
I think to the point earlier regarding network delivery, we're in an interesting point in the ecosystem. It's I don't want to say it's easy to broadcast over the air, but it's uncontentious to broadcast over the air. You get a frequency and you broadcast your signal, and everyone happily consumes it. When we start talking about the content ecosystem and where we're going, right? We're going to an over-the-top world, and that is, not only services like Netflix, but also the traditional media companies really need to figure this out. And there's been a dichotomy. Certain companies look at it as an opportunity, right? Okay, well, I'm not going to consider ourselves to be, say, the term that gets thrown around, which is dumb pipe. We're going to play here as well. We're going to have our own content or our own content aggregation. We're going to provide a compelling service, but also allow our consumers to have options. And then you've got the flip side of that, which is that we're running scared. We're afraid that these services that are over the top are going to eat our lunch, so we're going to try to block them or say, okay, well, they're causing an undue amount of burden on us, and so we shouldn't be obligated to carry their traffic. The reality is that everything is moving to IP. You know, chances are, if you have a set-top box at home to receive your cable television, either the entire thing is speaking IP now, or a large portion of any of the interactive piece of it is speaking IP. And we will be at a point where it's 100% IP within the next few years. At that point, it's all IP, it's all bits. And consumers need choice, and by giving consumers choice, we end up in a place where we evolve, and we have 4K and we have 8K. If we just had a single provider of content, say in the US, there would be no incentive to provide a better consumer experience. So the incentive would be to provide enough of a consumer experience so that there's not an outrage. So, you know, I think that from our perspective is the biggest roadblock. You know, getting the content in 4K, I don't want to say is easy, but clearly everything new that's being made is shot in 4K, and the transcoding piece of it, and then to 8K once we're there as well, the transcoding piece of that is getting easier and easier.
Just tweaking some software, basically.
Yeah.
And so in your case, I mean, NHK doesn't just like operate a satellite channel, right? You're producing your own content, and you also work with other distributors like cable companies to go ahead and get your content out there. So is it safe to say, because I'm not an expert in consumer behavior, but it seems as though there's a bifurcation of the market, right? So on the one hand, like I watch the CBS Evening News when I can. That's, you know, mostly I don't watch TV that much, I apologize. And then at the other extreme, I watch long tail content that's all the shows that 6-year-old girls watch, because my daughter Sierra and I just sit there and watch Netflix nonstop. So your business presumably is not at any great risk, in the sense that there will always be a role for like the professionally produced content. But are you seeing changes in behavior like in your core target audience in Japan, or you know, in other words, are there any disruptions that anyone can anticipate, or is it just straight 2K? You're skipping 4K,
yeah.
Which what is the reason for that, to go from 2K directly to 8K?
Okay, broadcasting system cannot be changed so often like mobile device or internet. Broadcasting system needs a very long lifespan, dozens of years. So we are looking at the next generation TV system. We need higher sensation of reality and presence. So we regard that 8K is the ultimate two-dimensional television system. So we skip 4K, and we avoid overlapping investment. If we pay 4K equipment to the broadcasting system, we cannot afford to get next 8K. So we skip 4K, because 8K is right behind 4K. 8K is not too far. So we believe broadcasters should set the system as a 8K system. If we transmit 8K signals to the whole country, users can down-convert 8K TV signal to 2K or 4K, dependent on his or her receivers. But broadcasters needs to watch the final television system. I think it's 8K.
Okay. So there you have it. Hold off on buying your 4K set until Costco has 8K on sale. We have a few minutes left for Q&A, so if anyone wants to either yell out, or do we have mics? Sharon, do we have mics around? I can't tell with the lights. No questions, including who should win the souvenir 8K sets that we're handing out? Okay, yes. The question is basically for the various elements of the ecosystem, including specifically cameras. Do you think that manufacturers see the opportunity and are on board with doing what you need to develop the end-to-end ecosystem?
Yeah, we need such a 8K cameras. And in Japan, some manufacturers selling professional use 8K cameras already. So we are not worrying about production side. My concern is a receiver side.
Yeah, if you remember, there were all the subtleties too around like the TV news sets were a little bit dilapidated, and that didn't show up on standard def. And then when they went to HD, all of a sudden, all the newscasters were worried about wrinkles and the scratches on the set. So, any other questions? We still have a minute and 23 seconds. Yes, Chandra. You're asking about the target date? Target cost.
Target cost. I expect the same price as the current HD.
Yeah, Peter Coffey probably knows this law, but there's the law about the laptop that you really want always costs $2,000. You know that law? So it's, presumably there's the price point for TVs too.
But remember, when we started HD digital television, it's the same situation. When we moved to analog to digital HD, I suppose everyone thought that, wow, it's too expensive. We don't need such a higher display. But my wife says also same thing. But once my wife gets the HDTV, that's what I wanted, she says. So it happens same thing in 8K TV.
That's a whole other can of words, right? The spouse wants the new couch, and the other gender spouse wants the big TV. So we're out of time, but I want to put in a plug because NHK has gone to a lot of trouble, and they ship these very expensive display systems and TVs here for your benefit to be able to see. So 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock today, and 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock tomorrow. You can get your own small room, living room style, 22 speaker simulated, and 8K non-simulated over in South Pacific 1. So I saw it last night, and it's a mind-boggling experience when you realize you can see like the microbes and viruses on the nails, on the the stage of where they're doing the drums and carnival and everything. So it's pretty amazing. So thank you so much for all your efforts. Thanks for coming over. That was great. And I can't wait to get my very own. So I'll give you my shipping address just in case you need it. Okay. Thank you.